Hey, everybody. Your designers are here.
I'm Anita at Cedar Hill Farmhouse.
And I'm Yvonne at Stone Gable.
And I'm Kelly at My Soulful Home.
We have tips and tricks and decorating advice for you today. So let's get started.
This is episode 217, Lampshades 101. And the show notes for today's episode can be found at decoratingtipsandtricks.com/217.
Okay. I'm pretty opinionated about this one, girls.
Yes,
about lampshades.
We know.
Yeah. Pillows, lampshades, vignettes. There's just some things that I just have a pretty strong opinion about.
It's kind of a lot of things, though.
Sorry.
It certainly is. I know. She makes it sound like it's just lampshades.
I mean, not that a strong opinion is a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just you say it the best. You love a lot. You're an over lover.
You're a woman of firm opinions.
Yes. Well,
and when lots of love.
When it comes to decorating, I know my mind. Let's just put it that way.
It's good to know thyself.
Yeah.
And to share your beliefs. So that's what we're going to be doing today.
Okay.
I mean, there are certain rules, and maybe some of us with lots of love and strong beliefs don't even agree with all the rules. But, there are rules and then there are rules. So we'll see how that plays out.
Okay.
In general terms, what do you need to take into consideration with a lampshade? You need to take choosing a lampshade. You need to take in consideration the shape of your lamp, the height of your lamp, the width of your lamp, and the materials that the lampshade is going to be made of. So those are the things that you get to think about when you're choosing one.
Right. So
would anyone say there was more?
We're done.
No, I think you make a good point. In fact, if the lamp base, rarely are they square. I mean, sometimes they are. I shouldn't say they aren't. But, it's often round or turned. And then, you want those typically have a round lampshade. But I was just moving some lamps around today, and it was very interesting. I had some hand-painted lampshades, and they just really didn't go in the room that they were in anymore. So I switched them out for these wrought iron lamps. And the wrought iron lamp bases are actually urns, but they're only half. They're only the front. It's like you sawed them in half.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So it came with some oval white empire-style lampshades. So they're not drum. They're they taper toward the top, and they're actually oval, which I thought was a very interesting choice. And I like that for those. So that's another option, are the oval ones too.
Now, is Empire, let me just jump in here before we lose that thought, because I've heard of that Empire style. So is an Empire style lampshade one that tapers at the top and flares out at the bottom?
Yes, I mean, that's my understanding.
Yeah,
okay. It's just, that's the other style.
I'm going with you because I don't know. I've heard that term, but I don't know that I ever knew what that meant. I wonder whose empire it is. Napoleon?
We'll have to look
It's got to be French.
Yeah. Well, and maybe like
French.
The empire waist, and then it flares out. So maybe that's supposed to be like a bunch of
maybe in the early 1800s. That was the style, fashion style.
Yeah, the
because
empire
I love
waist,
all those period
high.
movies and love those empire type gowns. Okay, I just think here's a couple other things we need to talk about too. We need to talk about finials. That how your lamp shade is put on your base, and if you need a finial or not, and what they look like. I don't know. Maybe we'll cover that today or not. But that is definitely something. If we don't, we should do another episode about. And I really think that you need a measuring tape. And you need your eyes, because I think not only should you measure things to get it correct, but also let your eyes be a guide too. And I think you can look at a lampshade and go, boy, that just doesn't look right. And case in point, in my living room for the last year and a half, I've had 2 lampshades that I know are not the right size for the lamps. And I look over it a little bit because I've not found the perfect lampshade for it yet. Because these
Yvonne,
are big.
I think that's an excellent point. I think it's very hard to get the right size lampshade. If it's off, it's off, but getting the right one is very difficult. And that's why, and it makes me sad there really aren't many lampshade stores anymore, because I know a long time ago I had one near me, well, really just a few years ago, and you could take your lamp in, they would find the right lampshade for you, the right color. And then if it was too tall a lampshade, no problem. They could just put an extender on it and just make it a little bit taller.
Oh, that is so cool. But
yeah,
and
there
you
were
know,
so many
Anita,
things you could do. Mm-hmm.
here's the thing. I can order a lamp online, but for me to order a lampshade, that's harder. That's actually harder for me because I think a lampshade is like putting jewelry onto your lamp. And I'm so fussy that it looks nice. And I would rather have a cheap lamp base and an expensive lampshade because I think that lampshade, if it looks cheap, I don't care how nice your lamp is, it's not going to look good.
Mm-hmm. Well, and some of them are rather expensive. That's right. And there's so many types, and my preference these days really is the drum shade. That's my favorite if it works on the lamp.
Well, let's get some measurements down, some ratios so people can understand how the lamp to lampshade ratio works. And then we can talk about maybe the different kinds of lampshades and other things that we need to know. I was doing some research, and the research is even a little bit off because I was seeing that, 60% of the total height of your lamp and lampshade, 60% of it should be the base and 40% the shade. When you're going height and width, 50% of the base and 50% of the base is the smallest to 100%. Now I'm thinking,
so the lampshade, what you're saying, should be doubled the width of the lamp base.
I so don't agree with that.
Right, but you're saying that's the rule you're referring to.
But can you imagine like a drum shade being double the size of a lamp? Now I can see it like 1.5 times, or I just can't imagine double. That's huge. I would say it should be the size of your base, probably bigger, and always go a little bigger than smaller when it comes to a lamp. If a lampshade, when you're looking at a lampshade and going, okay, lampshade A is a little bit smaller than lampshade B, and I can't really choose the bigger one.
I'm gonna say for me that depends because I have a very large Aden Gray lamp. It's a column, and so it's pretty big for a column. But the lampshade is much more than double the width of the base.
Well,
however, it's a very tall lamp.
That's because of the height and width. We're talking about like your normal lamp.
Yeah, that lamp is an outlier.
It's an outlier.
That's really
but then there's the candlestick lamps. They tend to be kind of skinny.
Outliers. Outliers on the other.
Well, they're not at my house, so that's what I have.
I know.
Most
of
mine
house
are the
is just so beautifully
ones.
unique, Anita. But probably a lot of people that we're talking to have sort of run of the mill lamps. But I would say it's got to be bigger than the width of your lampshade has to be bigger than the width of the base of your lamp. But I'm not saying it needs to be two times bigger. And this is where I think you eyeball it. Do you know what I'm saying? I think you need to eyeball and say, okay, does this one look better or does this one? It's 2/3 the height. That's the 60/40. It's 2/3 the height of my lamp. But let's look about how wide it is, and then you can go from there. But here's the other thing: the throat of your lamp can show. That's usually the metal part, and then the socket is on top of that. But if you can see your socket, that's a no-no. Mm-hmm. You need to get a taller lampshade.
Yeah, so if something showing looks like the business part of it, then it's not. Then it's
your business is showing.
Mind your own business.
It's like somebody kind of who doesn't have bottoms on.
Under wraps.
When I was a teacher, I used to say MYOB. And that meant mind your own business. Oh. Like the kids were like, they'd come up and want to tattle, or they would have to look at the end of stuff. I just said, MYOB, you have enough going on in your life, So let's MYOB for our sockets. We're going to just let them be hidden into themselves. I think that when you look at a lampshade, you really, since you're going to already measure your lamps and then you're going to do the calculations to know an approximate how big your lampshade should be. And depending on the shape, that really makes a big difference too. And then if you can go to a place that you can actually take your lamp, you're going to let your eyes be your guide, because they'll show you, ooh, this is off or this is okay. You don't want a lampshade that sits so low on your lamp that it covers part of your lamp. Your socket and part of your lamp is not good. But then I think if you think, okay, this is the size I need, you need to know how it's going to function. And that's going to tell you a lot about the material that your lampshade's made out of.
Yeah. Let's jump back to shape for a second.
Okay.
So if you have a round lamps, ginger cherry style, or sort of those bulbous ones on the bottom that raise up a little bit, generally round, more than likely a round shade is going to be the most complementary to that. If you have a square lamp, like maybe something sort of like Anita's column, it's a little more squared off, although maybe your column, I feel like I've seen your column and it's square, but maybe it is round. But if you have
mine's
something
round.
If you have something that's more of a square shape, a square shape shade is probably going to complement to the best. But here's where it's kind of interesting. If you have a square lamp, but it's sitting on a round table, then you can play with the round form of the table and really go with a round shade. So it also sort of depends on where that shade is going to be, where that lamp is going to be placed.
And what it's on.
Yeah. And so, you may not consider the tabletop that it's on, but that can also play into what shape that you choose. Don't you just love a great recommendation from a friend? Well, we're delighted to be recommending these companies and their wonderful products to you today. And let them know your friends at DTT sent you. Pesto pork chops over Parmesan polenta. Not that easy to say, but oh so easy to make with Green Chef. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit company for eating well, and we have such a great deal for you. You're going to save $250. Listen on for the details on that. Green Chef makes eating well easy for any lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat more balanced meals. We're getting into the busy holiday season, so it's a perfect time to have Green Chef help you out. Let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season with their chef-crafted, nutritionist-approved recipes featuring fresh ingredients and nothing artificial. And you know what? You don't have to lose track of your healthy eating habits during the holidays. Every Green Chef customer gets a free session with their registered dietitians who will walk you through how to make clean eating work for you. So sign up for your free session and start on the road towards better health today. And that deal I want to tell you about, visit greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order. So that's greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order. BritBox just keeps getting better. The new Archie is amazing. And it's not the comics. It's about Cary Grant. Archie is the brand new limited series starring Jason Isaacs as Archie Leach, the man who became Cary Grant. From the award-winning screenwriter of Philomena, Archie tells Grant's born in Britain, made in Hollywood story, the dramatic grit to glamour transformation that led him to become one of the most famous people in the world. You are going to absolutely love the acting, but also the styling, the outfits, the scenery. It's the first time his story has been told in collaboration with his daughter Jennifer Grant and ex-wife Diane Cannon. The performances from Jason Isaacs and the rest of the cast are amazing, and it's only available on BritBox. So sign up for BritBox today to stream Archie and other fan favorites from any device. And we have a special limited time offer for our U.S. and Canadian listeners. Get 50% off, yes, that's 50% off your first month when you sign up for a monthly plan. But only if you go to BritBox.com and use our promotion code DTT at checkout. You're going to love Archie. So head over right now and get 50% off your first month of BritBox. Use the promotion code DTT at BritBox.com.
Well, let's go through the shapes. Let's start with the most very popular now. Can you guess what it is? This is like a no-brainer. What's the most
Round?
popular shape for a lamp in today?
Drum.
Drum.
Well, yeah, the drum. I thought you meant round versus square. Yeah,
oh,
drum.
no, drum shade. A drum shade is round and it is more squat than, it's not as tall. It's squat and wide. And has a very distinctive look, and it's very updated and now looking. And actually, it's my favorite and always has been, even back in the day. I've always loved a drum shade.
Mm-hmm. You know, while we're talking about shades, I want to bring up the topic of the color of the shades, because back when I worked at a furniture store, and this was kind of maybe 10 years ago. So I'm not talking 30 years ago. I'm talking 10 years ago. The white lampshades would not sell. Right. Isn't that interesting?
Well, Anita, can I do this? Can I usurp that just for a minute and say, can we go through the shapes and then we'll go through colors and materials?
Okay, sure.
Okay. So let's talk about the oval, which I think ovals are beautiful. They often have a bell shape, and they're so good. If you have a lamp that sits next to a wall or a window or something that it can't go very far out, or even like if you have a mantle, an oval works perfectly for that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. My lamp, it's flat on the back, and so the oval really works nicely so that it's not real deep, and so it fits really well on a shelf or something that's kind of narrow. Whereas if you have a round lampshade, a lot of times those lampshades are so big, you know, there's some tables and shelves that they really are not going to fit well on.
Yeah, like a drum, you have to be very careful, because my drums basically sit pretty far out from a table. These oval are very sophisticated looking. They're a little more traditional, but they're also a little more formal. What about the square or rectangle? We touched on that a little bit. I just crush on these square shades.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. It's it's sharp. It seems like a little bit more modern at first blush. But I think the drum and the square can really work in all sorts of decor. I think when you get to, again, we're going to talk about the materials in a second. The material comes into play and really can signify a certain style or a look, maybe even more so than the shape. But, something squared off and modern, more angular and linear, I think that definitely tends to have a more modern feel. So you could freshen up an older looking lamp, like something that's sort of, gildy and a little frou-frou-y, with a more modern lampshade. Kelly, and I love that.
If you would put a black shade on that with a gilded inside, and it was a square or rectangle, oh my goodness, it would look so beautiful.
And what you're saying, what Kelly's saying, I think this is an excellent point, because I buy vintage lamps a lot that have a beautiful shape, but almost always the lampshade either looks bad or it looks really dated. But I can't tell you. And I found an Italian hand done gold leafed column lamp that was beautiful, but it had this ugly lampshade. And it's just amazing how you can take a vintage lamp, change out the shade, and it's stunning.
Yeah. And so, that goes the absolute opposite way, Anita. I go to places like Home Goods, TJ Maxx, At Home, all kinds of these different lower end, well, I shouldn't say lower end stores, but where you can get a great buy. Yeah. Yes. And some of their lamps are fabulous, but a lot of their lampshades are not. So I often buy the whole thing, take it apart. Now I've got, like, you have your orphans that are, your chairs and everything, Kelly. I've got lampshade orphanage down in my basement, and I'll go down and pick and choose different ones. A lot of the times I just take those off and add a different lampshade, and it's an amazing lamp.
Well, I think we're kind of saying the same thing, coming from two different angles. Yeah. And the point is, changing out a lampshade can make a lamp much more beautiful. The lampshade can make or break the lamp, is really what we're saying. Good
point. Okay. Now we're going to get into the empire, which is, it's called a frustum shape, which means, like, if you're thinking of a pyramid and you cut the top of the pyramid off and That's the frustum shape, where it's just not a full pyramid. It's just sort of cut off at the top. It's round on the top, smaller, round on the top, larger on the bottom. So it looks again like the 2/3 of a pyramid. This is probably the most classic shape of a lampshade. And there's an offshoot from that called a coulis lampshade. And it looks like, it's a much wider, triangle look, that frustum look. And
picture you harvesting a rice paddy,
right,
and wearing
like a Chinese hat. That's exactly right. Yeah. And that's what I have on my big lamps in my dining room and living room. And they're huge. They're the ones that are not the right shape, but they're passable at this point. I'd love to get drum shades for that, but I'd have to pull my end tables out a little bit from the wall, because my lamps are pretty big and they would take a huge drum shade. So right now I have the coulis lampshade on it, and that's going to have to sit there for a while until I find something. So those are the most. Now you have the kind that also the most common. Then you have the kind that, sit up against your wall, like sconces and things like that. But what we just talked about are the most popular lampshades.
Yeah, and I think what we're really focusing on today, niching down as we are to the lampshade, it's more like a table lamp. So there are those other kind of funky sconcy shades and standing lamps and all that. But probably what most people's picturing in their mind as we're talking today is the table lamp.
And that's a good point that you bring up, because I've seen some custom lamps that were gorgeous that are a half a lampshade. It's just the front and it's flat on the back. And those are really beautiful too.
Oh,
but those are kind of
specialty. Talk about dramatic, right?
They're specialty expensive lamps. So these are not something, that you can find just anywhere.
Right. Now, we're not saying spend hundreds of dollars on lampshades. And honestly, you could. Depending on the material and the designer
the big ones are going to be that. But I bought a lampshade for that big lamp of mine, and it was not a fancy lampshade. I did not go to a fancy place, but it was over $100 for.
Yes, I was going to say you'd probably spend between $50 and $150
because it was big,
depending on how big they are. That's right. But there's always outliers. Like I went to Kmart. I haven't been there in years, and I forget even why I was there a couple months ago, and found a lamp with the lampshade that's yellow with this great, almost filigreed look to it. And I loved it. So it sits in my study because it's the perfect color. But more than likely, cheap lampshades will make your whole lamp look cheap. So we're saying that this is an investment, but, just be wise in your investment. Get something that really works, use your measuring tape, and again, use your eyes.
Right. And of course, you're going to want to take into consider where the lamp is going to be positioned in your house. Certainly choosing the lamp in general, but also choosing the shade because the shade is just not for beauty. It's for functionality as well. So, certain types of lamp shades, depending on the fabric you're using, are going to give you a different amount of light or direct the light in different places. So like if you had a lamp in your bedroom on your nightstand and you wanted to use it for reading, you would want to choose a certain type of fabric that's going to allow you to get a sort of directed light and whatnot. Back to the lampshades. Can we do materials now?
Absolutely. Now that we know how to measure a lamp, how a lamp should look on your base, on your lamp base. And now that we know the most common styles of lampshade, let's talk about material. Go ahead, Kelly.
Well, there's the most basic, is it translucent? Or is it opaque? So is the light going to be emanating all around from your lampshade? Is that what you want? Is sort of a little bit of more of an overall glow from the lampshade? Or do you want it to be a little bit more directed and the light to come out the bottom and, a little bit out the top, but mostly out the bottom? So those are some considerations. Obviously, like Yvonne mentioned that very dramatic, a black lampshade with, gold foil inside. That's going to be more of, it's going
that's
to
like
emanate
mood
from
lighting.
The bottom. Yeah, it's going to kind of pull you in a little bit rather than the light coming out. If you have a white, cotton/linen blend type of shade, it's just going to emanate light from sort of all around it. So that is a consideration. Oftentimes when you go to a store, or particularly if you're ordering online, you're not seeing the lamp lit up, even in the catalogs. Usually they're not lit up, to get a better photo and whatnot. So, you really need to think about the fabric, and you'll now know, what kind of fabrics are going to illuminate in these various ways. So I think that's just an overall first thing you want to approach. What kind of light do you want to be coming out? And then it's into the texture. Smooth textures tend to be a little bit more modern. Fabric lampshades with maybe pleats and stuff, it's kind of countryish or a little cozier. Mm-hmm. I love burlap shades. I think they're so multi-purpose. Like
I'm there with you.
Drum shade, you can't go wrong, or a linen blend shade. I'm not so much a white lampshade person. To me, is kind of like the one that would come with the lamp.
That's what I was trying to say. And now I think the white is much more popular. But, like I said, 10 years ago, you could not sell a lamp with a white lampshade. Black was all the rage. And now I think black is not as popular as a lampshade color. So, it's interesting how it changes over time.
Yeah.
Yes, I do too. I think one really important thing, though, is even some lamps have like an inner lining. Do you know what I'm saying? Or most lamps do. So you just have to be careful that that's not too dark or it's not too heavy if you want something that shines through. Now, I know that I love, like you said, burlap. Burlap is really my jam. I think it adds a nice texture. It's a great color. You can get it in different colors. And I use a clear light bulb with those because I think you get better lighting with that. It just really, so there's many things that you have to think of when you're thinking of a lampshade.
It's exhausting, isn't it? Thank goodness we're here to straighten this all out. You just say, oh, you bought a lamp and it came with this white shade on it and done. But no. You have to think about it.
Or, if people do this, other people, let me know if you're like me and get rid of the lamp. Oh, I keep the lampshades. We could have a lampshade swap. There's so many different people that have all these lampshades from things that they've gotten. Maybe there's some gems on there that would fit my lamps and not your lamps. Just think of that. Instead of a clothes swap, we'll do a lampshade
I don't have
swap.
a big storehouse of lampshades because I tend to buy those vintagey sort of like funkadoodle lamps at the thrift store and spray paint them or, just clean them up. And then I'll go and buy a lampshade for it. So I don't have too many of them laying around. Plus it's a hard thing to have around. Actually, my neighbor, Catherine next door, she's so cute. She doesn't know exactly what I do, but she sees me like moving stuff around in my house all the time. And then she sees people coming with cameras sometimes. And, she probably hears me talking because we're not that far away when we do the podcast recording. But the other day, she texted me and she's like, I left something on your porch for you. And I just thought you'd like it. Now, normally it would be like a normal person's neighbor would be like, I don't know, a banana bread or some tomatoes from our garden. It was two gigantic drum shades.
Oh, I may need those.
Seriously,
the ones
Yvonne, you would love these.
For.
They are so huge. They're like the size of a small jacuzzi, each one of them.
Measure them for me.
Okay.
So, and I'll see if they fit.
She's but you know what? Shipping these lampshades all over the place. She's like, I was
They're
going to
light.
send them to
They're
my
light.
sister. She's like, but I thought that's crazy. Like the size box she would need. I thought Kelly could use these somewhere. I don't know. So I have these two, and then I have a few little ones.
You have more than you think, Kelly.
Yeah, but
see what I'm saying about a lampshade swap?
Yeah, a lampshade
this
swap
might work. Yeah.
Another thing you need to consider, and Anita's probably knowledgeable about this as well, is the harps. So that's a different type of lamp. How does the lampshade get affixed to the lamp? Is it a clip-on? Is it a harp? What size is your harp? Did you guys all know they come in different sizes?
Or a spider? Yes.
Well, right. They are different sizes, but I'll tell you, my least favorite is that kind that sits around the
light
base.
bulb.
Well,
That's
the
a
base that holds a
spider.
light bulb.
Yeah, I don't like those either.
Those just will not sit flat. Those drive me nuts, and it just makes me want to throw the lamp against the wall. So
Don't do that; it might break.
I know. I can't deal with those. I know they're bad. They're bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get all the people on my blog that'll email me and say, "I'm so OCD. Your lamp shade is crooked. I can't stand it." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, it won't sit."
Totally off lampshade subject. Don't you hate it when you do this big photo shoot and then you go to develop pictures to edit them and there is something wrong, like a wonky lampshade, or I left my readers on the buffet.
Yep. It happens to me.
More than likely for me, it's a dog tail in the corner. Like, they didn't
you
move.
can Photoshop that out
all the way. That's funny. Yeah, and oftentimes it is even in the American farmhouse style, and they did the styling and it was beautiful. And I thought they did a really nice job, but one of the pictures would drive me crazy and they probably did it on purpose, but I was like, oh, that pillow is just not right. Like I want to flip it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that happens, but it's casual, it's okay. It makes it look casual. But I don't like the kind where it sits either. And sometimes what I do with that, I have to say I do a little cheat. Because sometimes a lamp, particularly some of the small ones, does not have, and I don't know what they're called, but maybe one of you guys do, the little, let's call them little hands, like the little palms that the harp would sit into, those little metal things.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah. Sometimes little lamps don't even come with those.
Yes, right? They have the clip on the light bulb.
The cheap ones don't have those.
Right. So either
don't get those.
So either you have the choice of the spider, or you have the clip-on, which really only works with little
tiny
lamps,
tiny
and sometimes
lamps.
Only certain size bulbs. Well, sometimes the clip just won't open up to be affix to a big normal size bulb.
Right,
it needs like a candlestick. But anyway, okay. So if you have the kind where we're calling it a spider, are we? You put the lampshade on, then you screw the bulb in, and the bulb screwing into the lamp.
It's got to have a better name than spider.
Then that's how it holds the lamp. Okay, so if that's wonky and not, so then just take a piece of, don't do anything that God forbid should go on fire. So don't use twine or anything. I mean, I doubt you would ever light your house on fire from twine in a light bulb, but you never know.
You never know.
Use wire. So get a little spool of wire. It could be the green coated wire or just the gray wire, and just put it in there. Like, wrap it around a few times to tighten it, because you never have to take that off until you're ready to change the bulb, and that will help straighten it. Green Chef is a delicious delight any time of year, but especially during the holidays. What a wonderful vision to behold as the Green Chef boxes on your doorstep. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for eating well. And it makes eating well so easy with plans to fit every lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat a more balanced diet. So let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season. And if you've got guests coming, shop Green Bundles. They're now available at the Green Market. It's your one-stop shop for nutritious grab-and-go breakfasts, including vegan options, brunch kits, wholesome lunches, ready-to-eat snacks, veggie sides, and more. You can feel your best this December and do your best with Green Chef, because they offset 100% of the delivery emissions as well as 100% of the plastic in every box. Go to greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT and get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. Inevitably, with the new year come wellness goals. One very effective and easy to reach goal is to add Dose to your wellness regime. Dose is expertly formulated organic wellness shots that support your liver in one delicious drink. Formulated with ingredients clinically shown to support liver health. Potent turmeric, milk thistle, and ginger. There's 0 sugar and 0 calories. Did you know that your liver performs over 500 special functions? Since I learned all that my liver is doing, I started with Dose to support all those vital functions. I take a shot of refreshing Dose 2 times per week to combat everyday toxins from food, meds, alcohol, and unhealthy air. Since starting with Dose about a month ago, I am definitely feeling an overall improvement in my health. So if you want to give Dose a shot and invest in your health like I have, Dose is offering DTT listeners 15% off your first order, plus an additional 15% off if you subscribe for a monthly delivery. That's 30% off your first order. So go to dosedaily.co/DTT and use the code DTT. That's dosedaily.co.co/DTT and use the code DTT. You see what I'm saying?
Let me just say this. I wouldn't use wire and electricity together because that's conductivity. What about a rubber band? Is a rubber band like something you could put around it?
Well, I guess you could use a rubber band, but then you have to
conductive?
open the rubber band wide enough to go over the lamp, or you have to like cinch it in a funky way. But you could try that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You could try that. But if you do the coated wire, you know, it's not like you're taking the wire, Yvonne, and sticking it into the outlet.
I know,
like, it's pretty
but
far
I'm
away
so
from that.
funny about that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, oh my gosh,
Right.
They're fitters.
One time you stick your finger in the outlet because you think it's going to be funny, and you just never do that again.
I'm sorry. Okay, can I correct myself here? The spider is the kind that you clip onto a finial. So and a carp. I was wrong with that.
Yeah, that's the top of the shade.
Yeah,
I think.
We're calling that a slip uno, SLIPUNO fitter. I knew in my heart of hearts, I knew that was wrong.
A slip
UNO and uno,
Okay.
where it goes on the where you put it around the socket and then you screw the light bulb into it. Okay, there we go. We got it right now.
And then I have one other tip. Okay, so then if you're doing one that is utilizing a harp and the lampshade has now what we're saying is the spider on top, you know, the crossed metal with the hole for the little screw to come in that you can then put a finial on if you want to. Mm-hmm. Okay, so sometimes you put that together, you know, the harp is good, the shade fits nicely, and you go to put the finial on, and here's, you know, there's always a little something going on, right? Your screw is longer than your finial will accept. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get into any more details on that.
That would be awful. Yeah.
That does happen, especially if you're playing around with these vintage lamps, thrift store lamps. So all you need to do is have a few little washers on hand, you know, that you get at the hardware store.
As long as you can't see them over your lampshade.
As long as you can't see. But you normally can't see them anyway. And sometimes they just look like they're part of the finial, like the base of the finial, right? Yeah. So you could, sometimes I've had as many as 3 piled up and no one has been the wiser. I'll tell you that. So you just have them in your stash.
What a trick. Yeah, a really good little decor trick.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean,
well, that's what I'm here for.
A really good little decor trick, not a tick.
Trick. So, yeah, I think we covered a lot of territory today. Thanks for joining us. Remember, we're here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time.